Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today on this episode, I wanted to run through 4 of my favorite baits for fishing in September. September is one of the toughest months in bass fishing, and really it's kind of weird because a lot of new patterns open up and the fish start getting a little bit more active up shallow than they've been for, throughout the summer. September is like one of those months that really the fall transition starts in. Okay, even though it's still hot, there still is a fall transition. So you'd think that because the bass are starting to move and start to focus on bait more, that they'd be easier to catch, they'd be more aggressive. But for some reason, September is just a tough month. It's probably one of the toughest months, if not the toughest month to catch fish. And that's really shown in tournament results. You look at tournament results in September, usually they're at their lowest of the entire year. And that kind of goes into like early in mid-October too. Once you get into late October, the bite really starts to pick up. But September is really tough. But there's 4 different baits that I really like to lean on hard this time of year. Of course, there's a bunch of other baits that you can throw in September too, but these are 4 that I really, start to like a lot during this month. And really, all of them are going to revolve around shallow fishing, not only because I'm a shallow water power fisherman at heart, but because, more fish move shallow in September than you've seen throughout the other summertime months. And there's a couple reasons for that. Number one, in a lot of lakes, the dissolved oxygen content is just not high enough in the deeper areas of especially lakes that don't have a lot of current flow. But also the shorter days, the influx of some cooler rainstorms that come through, those cooler nights, and also I think I already said it, but shorter days, all those things combined really start to low-key kick off the shad migration. A lot of people, because it's hot out, they don't start thinking of September as a fall migration month, but this is when things really start happening. If you can be one of the first to start running these patterns on a lake, you can do very, very well. So these baits are really primarily shallow water power fishing techniques, which benefits my style. All right, so the first one that I want to show you guys is the bait that I'm going to show you is a brand new bait. I have not tested it all that much, but we're really talking about a category of baits, not this specific bait. But this bait is pretty incredible. I have a lot of confidence that this is going to be a bait that I'm going to be throwing as my go-to for years to come, and that is a swim bait. But no ordinary swim bait. This is the new Z-Man Mulletron LT swim bait, which is pretty cool. It's a line through swim bait. You can use a single top hook that it comes with, or you can do a line through orientation where it comes out the bottom and you can use a treble hook or something like that. But overall, swim baits are really important this time of month. You can catch big fish with them, and then if you use some of the smaller, swim baits, like this one is the 4.5-inch version, you can catch numbers. And the primary reason why I like swim baits in September is because in lakes that have a lot of shad, again, September is the month where they start moving around and they start moving into the backs of the creeks, and they're just more active. And when you're fishing around shad, you want to imitate, those shad. And swim baits are some of the most realistic type of shad imitations. And so I'll throw a swim bait like this. Usually I like the swim baits that are between 4.5 and 6 inches, which the Shadtron LT actually comes in those 2 different sizes. I don't go like super big. You can go super big, but I feel like those really big swim baits, you got to be a good swim bait angler. I'm a tournament angler. I want numbers of fish. I want an opportunity at some larger fish, but I'm not looking for like 1, 2, or 3 bites in a day. I want a bunch of bites to be able to cull through some of the smaller ones. So I use those kind of small to mid-sized swim baits overall. So You know, anything in that 6-inch range or a little bit less is going to work very, very well. And where I like to fish swim baits like this is first around docks, and primarily floating docks. If I'm going into a creek that has a lot of floating docks, or maybe there's a marina, a swim bait like this is going to work really well just swam right below those docks, because a lot of fish are going to be hanging underneath those docks waiting for those shad as they move into the backs of the creeks. Also, I fish them around standing timber as well as grass edges too. So swim baits can be really, really good this time of year. As far as the tackle I'm going to be using with swim bait, it really depends on the exact swim bait. This one right here, I'm fishing it on a 7.6 heavy action all-purpose series rod from Fitzgerald. I've got 20-pound test Seagar red label on there, and I've got a 7.2 to 1 gear ratio reel. It's a pretty good standard size. I could definitely downsize my rod, go to the 7.3 heavy with that 4.5-inch Mulletron LT, but the flipping stick works good too. All right, so the next bait should be no surprise to you that I'm fishing this bait, because I love throwing a chatterbait. In fact, all 3 of the opens last year I cashed checks in, and primarily fishing a chatterbait. Chatterbait is a really good September bait. It's a really good fall bait. This right here is this is actually one of the prototypes that I was given last October of the new Elite Tungsten Evo chatterbait from Z-Man. And chatterbaits are just really good because usually there's grass that is grown up in September. You've got, submergent grass, and you've got a lot of shad activity. And whenever you have grass and a lot of shad, a chatterbait should be one of your go-to presentations. So I'll just be junk fishing this around any type of grass or cover that I can find. You can skip it underneath docks. You can do a bunch of different stuff to it. You can fish open flats with it, once the fish really get to the backs of the creeks. And it's just a killer lure to catch a lot of fish, and also size too. I primarily fish the shad pattern colors this time of year. So I'm going to be fishing whites, pearls, white and chartreuse. This here is a spot remover color. So just stick with shad colors this time of year. You really can't go wrong with that. The tackle that I'm going to be fishing it on is going to be my usual 7.3 medium heavy Versa Series rod. Anywhere from 15 to 20 pound test, fluorocarbon. I like, a red label. Red label's a really good one for these power fishing tactics. If you're not worried about having an ultra thin mainline, red label is just tough as nails. So that's a really good one. 7.2 to 1 gear ratio reel. And that's the setup. And of course, as in all my videos, I'm going to have links in the description below. If you're looking to purchase any of these products, you can use those links, and it's a great way to support the channel too. The next bait, I should really say it's more of a category of baits, just like the swim baits. But the next bait, I think, is a really important category of lures during this month, because again, September is a month where more fish start moving shallow. It's the beginning of the fall migration and those fall patterns. And so topwaters are going to be really important. I'm showing you a whopper plopper style bait because this is one of my favorite baits for this time of year. I think a whopper plopper or a similar one, this is the Chapo from Berkeley, they're going to be really, really effective during the month of September. Because again, you have a lot of shad migration, and a whopper plopper really does appeal to those larger fish a lot that are focusing more on the gizzard shad than the threadfin shad. But it'll also, catch fish that are focused on threadfin shad too. But it gives off a very big profile as far as sound and commotion that I really think draws fish out of grass if they're in the grass, or deeper water if they're just in slightly deeper water. It's a bait that gives you a lot of grace. You know, it's something that will pull fish from longer distances, thicker cover, deeper water, and get those ferocious strikes. You know, there's other topwater baits that you pretty much have to get them right on top of their head to be able to get those bites. But a whopper flopper style bait works really well. And some other topwater baits that I really like in September include a traditional popper, a frog, a walking bait, and a buzz bait. Those are some other ones that I really like this time of year. But in general, topwaters are going to be a big player during the month of September, more so than you've seen in like August and July and even June. So make sure you have those tied on. As far as the plopper, which I think is one of the better ones, the setup is going to be a 7.3 heavy Versa Series rod. If I'm using, you know, like the 120 or the kind of the medium or larger sizes, I'm going to be fishing it on straight braid. This is 50-pound Seaguar Tactics braid, and I use it on a high-speed gear ratio 8-to-1 reel. All right, the final bait or technique, if you will, that I really like to lean on in the month of September, sorry for spitting all kinds, that was gross, is going to be a punching setup. This right here is a very big key for September fishing on lakes like Chickamauga, Gunnersville, any lake that has a lot of grass. And the reason why punching is so important during the month of September on grass lakes is because up until September, the grass really hasn't set up to be advantageous for catching a lot of fish out of it. Unless it's like just sparse stuff that you're like fishing on a flat or something like that, you know, with a chatterbait or swimbait. It generally, if it's matted in August, it's probably too dense to really catch a lot of fish out of. But what happens is in September, the sunlight isn't penetrating down to the root systems anymore because the grass is so thick that the root systems start breaking down, and they create these nice little tunnels for the fish to be able to navigate through and also allow you to get your bait through. I'm not saying that other times of the summer the grass doesn't hold the fish in it, but in September, you just got to think about it. If in August, there's no tunnels and the fish is just dug into that grass, you have to put it right in front of their nose to be able to get the bite. In September, if there's a big tunnel, you punch through that grass into that tunnel, the fish could see it maybe from 5 foot away and come to it and eat it. So you don't necessarily have to get it right on their nose in the month of September, so you start getting more bites. So it just seems like there's more fish in that grass because you're able to get more of them to bite. But a traditional punching rig is a really, really good a way to do it. I like to use the lightest weight possible that I can. Usually that means a 1 ounce weight. But a lot of times you have to go up to even like a 2 ounce weight, depending on how dense that grass is. So I use this right here is a 1 ounce Fitzgerald tungsten weight. I put a punch and bead on there. I use the Hayabusa 959 hook on there. That's my punching hook of choice. And then I've really started fishing the new Z-Man Gremlin as my punching bait, and I just cut off the little curl tails on the tail, and it creates the perfect little profile punching rig. It looks like a little craw in there. So I use that. I like to use a 7/8 heavy flipping and pitching Titan HD rod from Fitzgerald, and then a 7.2-to-1 gear ratio reel, and then of course just heavy 65-pound braid. Usually going to be right now I have the old discontinued flipping braid from Seaguar, which is essentially the same thing as the as Smackdown, but it just had that black coating. But Smackdown is what I traditionally use nowadays when I run out of the flipping braid. So Anyways, guys, those are the 4 different lures or just broader techniques that I like to fish in the month of September. They're not the only ones, obviously, but these are ones that definitely start getting the nod more often than not once you hit the 9th month of the year. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions at all, make sure you drop a comment below. Other than that, make sure you consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. That is a great way to support the channel by showing your appreciation for the content that I put out. And other than that, I'm going to see you out on the water. Make sure you trust the process.